Bonjour, ça va? Et vous? Ah, d'accord. All right. Thank you so much for waiting. We're so sorry we're starting it just a little late. I know this is going to be a very special session. More people are finding their way here, so we're going to start anyway. We've got an exciting array of panelists, but I'm not going to be introducing them. I will introduce the moderator, and he will introduce the panelists. So, ladies and gentlemen, to moderate this session on demystifying representation in film, please put your hands together for Super Agent. No, but you are a super agent, fella. Fella, okay. Yeah, a round of applause for fella, okay. Who's also the project director for AFRIF? Please put your hands together for him.
Thank you, Lala. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thanks, everybody, for coming. We really appreciate your time, and we're so sorry we're running behind. We have a very, very exciting panel discussion for you. We were just talking upstairs. We've decided to make this a two-way conversation rather than us talk at you guys. We want it to be interactive, so let me cut right to it. First of all, a great friend and somebody I used to work with many, many years ago. Let me bring up Sam Onyemelekwe, MD, Trace, Urban, Nigeria. Next up, he's a unique guy, but he's a very hardworking guy. He's really, really one of the guys who epitomizes when you start from the bottom and you become a super agent, a real agent. He'll talk to you guys about hard work. Ozzy Menakaya. Last but not least, this is her fourth time in Nigeria in the last how many months? She's also from creative artist agency, Jennifer Okafo.
I take my time.
She does. We bow to the queen. So let me cut right to it. This session, when I've always done this session, I've always done it by myself. And it was initially created to talk to the industry about exactly that. There's a mystery around what agents do, what managers do, what it takes to make it as a talent, and what you need to have. A lot of the questions I got asked was, how do I get to Hollywood? I'm always like, you haven't asked me how you get to Obanikoro. You're saying, how do you get to Hollywood? But that question is heavy, so we're going to talk about that. We're going to kind of, ease the mystery as much as possible, but we can't do that without questions from you. The agency world, you've all seen Entourage. Some of you have seen Call My Agent. You kind of get to see what some of us do on a day-to-day basis, especially Ozzy and Jennifer, as well as Sam as well. We're going to talk to you about what it takes to be seen, what you need to do, what an agent and manager actually does, because there's always that question. What do we spend our time doing? Representation cuts across not just the talent, it cuts across. We're representing studios, producers, directors, brands. A lot of our work is global partnerships and that kind of stuff. So let me cut right to it. I'm going to go to Ozzy. I think I want you to kind of let people understand your story and how you began and how you got to where you are.
Thank you. Thank you, fella. Just thank everyone for, for being here, for being in front of us, for allowing us to speak. I wanted to say two things first. My assistant just found that photo. I'm actually a very cheerful person, and so that is what they used. And so the number two, I have not acclimated to the humidity here yet, and so if I wasn't wearing thin clothing and I would be drenched, and you would be wondering, is this guy just really nervous to talk to us? So I'm wearing this for you. Okay, so my full name is Ozichukwu Ifeanyicha Menakaya. My parents told me that my name means message of God. My middle name means we have found what we are looking for. And Menakaya means if you want something done right, do it with your hands. you know. And so my father immigrated to the U.S. and I watched him stay fulfilled to his mission. You know, he likes to say, I never drank a beer my entire 30 years in the U.S. You know, his passion was coming back to his homeland and building schools. So I was there in the U.S. watching this man not lose focus. You know, so now I have an opportunity to do the same, and I'm trying to ensure that, you know, I at least match my father's energy. You know, so at least in terms of starting from. Well, if you like that, here's a little bit more. So this Ozichukwu Efenata Kai was born in Dallas. My parents, were Nigerian immigrants. They like to call themselves African missionaries to the U.S. Right, educating people that don't believe that they need to be educated. You know, so they kept us very sheltered. They didn't want me or my brothers and sisters to believe that we were American more than we were, you know, Nigerian. You know, so after 8th grade, you know, at 8th grade, I was just getting, you know, welcomed into my community. They were finally looking at me as if I was one of them. And I think it was because I was becoming more athletic. I could play basketball. And so I was really ambitioning to play varsity in 9th grade, right? And then we go on vacation. My parents were like, let's go on vacation this summer. And I'm like, you know what? Usually we don't go on vacation, but I'm down this year. Look at my cousin Tochi here laughing. He knows what's about to happen. So we come to Nigeria for vacation, and they tell us, okay, actually, this is no vacation. We are moving you here. Yeah, and so that was my introduction to Nigeria. It was really abrasive, you know. It was like ripping the Band-Aid off, but it actually mirrors life, you know. And a lot of people are going through something in this quarantine, and they're like, oh my whole life has just changed, right? And I don't know how to move and shake. So at a very early age, at 14, I was introduced to the real world. You know, and the real world is life hits you in the face when you wake up, no matter what your plans are, and you have to address them. You know, and like when you're making a film, you have this ambition, you know, you're an actor, you have this ambition, you have this goal, and then you wake up and then it doesn't look like that. What do you do then? What do you do next? You know, how's your attitude? So to me, that was my education in terms of coming to Nigeria. You know, eventually I did come back to the U.S., but upon arriving back to the U.S., I felt like I had been informed as to how to control my mind. You know, no matter what the U.S. was going to put in front of me, I knew that I had the ability to overcome it or to withstand anything. You know, so I put myself through, you know, I didn't put myself, my community put me through high school, put me through college, you know, in the U.S. And then, as Fella mentioned, there was a show called Entourage, you know, that everyone was watching. At this point in time, I had been very successful at my other ventures. You know, I went to school for journalism. I wanted to be a news reporter because my older sister was always talking about being a reporter. So I wanted to mimic her. Actually, my senior year of college, I ended up being a live news reporter for ABC. You know, so on Saturday and Sunday, we'd be seeing me on the news at night and then drinking to it and partying. It was great, right? And so I felt like I had achieved something that I wanted to do. I had achieved a goal. My next mission was to become, you know, good in business. I embarked on an opportunity to become a pharmaceutical drug rep. You know, my territory was Washington, D.C. I did very well. You know, so after that, I felt like I was successful at two different ventures. So then, upon watching Entourage, my understanding of this talent industry was formed. I didn't know that agencies existed. You know, I had nothing. I knew nothing about that. When I lived in Nigeria, Nollywood was first burgeoning. Nobody was talking to me about talent agencies. I didn't know. You know, so because of that TV series, I had an inkling of an ambition to move to California, right? But I was thinking in the back of my head, California is not where Africans go. You don't go to, you're a Nigerian boy, and you're trying to figure it out here in the U.S., and you're still struggling. You're making it, but you're struggling. Why would you go and struggle even deeper in an ocean, you know, where people can definitely not pronounce your name, right? But eventually, I felt, you know what? If I'm going to continue to grow as a person, I'm going to look into difficulty, and I'm going to look into difficulty as an opportunity to grow. You know, so I bought this book called Hollywood History from the Bottom Up. It's on my Instagram. I read it, and in one of the last chapters, it talked about someone being courageous and believing in themselves, and not being fearful to speak about it multiple times. And I said, that is definitely me. You know, people have never been able to understand my name, so I got to continue to pronounce it and say it over and over again. So I'm not worried about repeating myself or continuing to show up. You know, and so I moved to California. And I asked people, where do agents Have I done something wrong?
No, you're good.
Okay,
No,
all
I want
right.
you to
So
continue.
I haven't let anybody else talk.
No, keep going. No, I want you to tell the story.
Okay.
No, you're good.
2 more minutes and I'll be done, and
You're
then
good.
I'll
You're
pass
good.
it off. I'm
You're
sorry.
good. You're good. You're
Okay.
good.
And so then, I moved to, I moved to California. Asked people, where do these agents go? Where can I find them and interact with them? And they said they go to happy hour at bars. They'll meet. And so I went to these bars on the Sunset Strip, and I asked them if they were hiring bouncers because I'm a big guy. And so they said I actually got hired 2 places on my first day, the Roxy and Rockin' Riley's. And so that allowed me to come at the entrance. I'm going to filter in everybody that is going to come in. And so I began to dress like an agent. And so people would show up and say, are you the bouncer or are you? And I said, no, I'm the bouncer, but I'm dressing for the job that I'm going to have. And then I would say, who are you? And then they would give me their information until eventually I met Vin Diesel's manager. He was running his production company called his name was David Ortiz. His production company is One Race Film. It's whatever. Like one race, like the whole world is one race. It's beautiful. So anyway, I told him a little bit about my ambitions. He connected me to his agent, who was at CAA. I got an interview with his agent, who then connected me to the HR manager. By the time I got to the HR manager, the woman was like, "Don't worry, you don't have to answer any questions. I'm going to tell you how this is going to go, and we're going to bring you in." So CAA hired me, and the CAA is the #1 talent agency in the world, and that is across sports, music, and talent. They hired me. I moved to California April 28, 2013. They picked me up April 28, 2014. A year to the date, I started in the mailroom. And so that was a little bit about the struggle and the sort of mental fortitude that I had to endure just to get to the opportunity of being in the mailroom. Of course, then when you're in the mailroom, you have to make yourself seem as if you are capable of being somebody's assistant. And then once you are somebody's assistant, not only do you have to do a good job, and that is literally anything that they tell you. I was telling my assistant to find a nice photo. This is the one that he chose. Okay, we're gonna have a conversation when I come back. And so the agent that I chose to work for, his name is Fred Spector, who's actually 83 years old at the time. And the CEO of the company, Richard Lovett, worked for Fred Spector. That is how long this guy has been in the game. But I told myself, if you work for Fred Spector and you do a bad job, then you will be out, but you will know why you're out. But if you do a good job, you may be in forever because of the connections that this man has. From Danny DeVito to Morgan Freeman to his talent list, but also his connections at the executive level after being at this level for 10 years. And if you go in and you make him happy, he will love you, and then you're good. So this is my thinking. I'm not worried about the level of difficulty. I'm rather attracted to it. I want the challenge. So I went and I worked for Fred Spector for 2 years. He fell in love with me, and then he said, "Don't worry, I'm going to make sure that you are promoted." It then took us 5 years to figure that out, but it did happen. And then they asked me, "What do you want to do?" You've worked for Fred, who does talent. You worked in the mailroom, which gave you an opportunity to see everything across the industry. And then after Fred, after the mailroom, then you worked for Rogue Sutherland, you worked for Ben Kramer. What they specialize in is bringing in independent finance for movies. So you have a very good education as to various verticals. What do you want to do? And I said, let me tell you a story, okay? I said, my parents tricked me into going to Nigeria, for vacation. And either way, I want to represent people like myself, people that have more of an international understanding. It doesn't have to be Nigeria. But what if it was overall Africa? What if it's these parts of the world that have never been given an opportunity to tell their own story? Growing up, I never saw a child like me in a position that I wanted to mimic on TV. All of the people that I wanted to be like were white. I was the Red Ranger in Power Rangers. His name was Zach. His name was Jason. And then every other show. And then when I saw depictions about Africa, even after I came back hanging out with my cousin Tochigi in the village, I came back to the U.S. to watch Blood Diamond, and I'm thinking, I didn't see no diamonds in Nigeria. I would have brought them back, and I'd have been good, But there was no diamonds. I didn't see any gun. And my relationship with my cousin, where is that on TV? When we're playing four goal, when we're taking off our flippers or our shoes, and each making our own goal. And then playing football and trying to score. Where is that? Even to this day, I've never seen it. But that is something that I loved the most. And I'm telling my friends, and I'm like, we don't need 11 on 11. Everybody take off your shoes. Let's play. And this is what I'm telling them in the U.S. So where's the authentic stories? And if it hasn't been, if I haven't seen them cross the ocean, I have crossed the ocean. And I know people on that side. So maybe we should create a division that advocates for those people. And then we can begin to see these stories, on screen. People say that they're making these stories, that they're catered to diversity and whatnot. But where are they? I haven't actually seen it. And if it's actually true, then I would have felt it in my in me trying to ascertain being an agent. But no one came to support. No one said, "Oh, you are diverse. Let me assist you." And so for me to think that that is happening in Nigeria, that somebody is coming there saying, "Hey, let me assist you. Let me support you," I would know that I'm being wrong to think that way. And so when they said, "Hey, we have what do you want to do?" I said, "I want to do Africa. I want to do Nigeria." And then my colleague Jennifer showed up. And I was like, listen.
Let me stop you there, Ozzy. No, only because, I think, Ozzy's story is great. I'm only stopping you because I want you to get back to that later. And I know somebody's going to ask you more questions about that trajectory, right? And also more about the agency world and how it works. But before that, I want Jennifer here to just give us a short introduction and talk about how she ended up where she is today at CAA.
Okay, hi everyone. Hello. So, my name is Jennifer Chalasa Wakafo. Chalasa meaning God answers, it's with an L, not an N, I know. My mom said L, so that's what it is. That means God answers, as a few of you know. And my dad, I'm the youngest of 3, I have 2 older brothers. My dad really wanted a girl, like really bad. And my mom was like, I'm done, no more. So he held out for 5 years, kept begging. She finally said, okay, this is your last one, and if you don't get it, I don't want to hear anything else. So then he got his girl, so they named me Chalasa. I am first an entertainment lawyer. I worked in China. I did a lot of film finance. Ozzy has his understanding of film finance in that space, working at the agency. I learned it from the legal side, living in Beijing, where I helped pretty much fund a lot of films in the States. We did a lot of global international sales with Germany and Australia and the US, but that's where I first started off. And then one holiday when I came home to the States, my cousin, who's also an entertainment lawyer, because you guys know we're only allowed to be but so many things, he said to me, Jennifer, have you thought about being an agent? And I said, why? No, like for what? He's like, well, I mean, look at you, like, look at your network and look at the people who you're connected to. And, we go to these legal conferences, and I know a lot of people across the spectrum at studios and networks, because that's essentially where our money is going to for our investors in China. And he said, I really feel like you would kill at that. And I said, well, I went to law school to be a lawyer because when I was 6 years old, my parents said I couldn't be a tiger and I couldn't be a butterfly. So I said, because we can't seem to agree, I guess I'll be a lawyer, and then we can figure this out down the line. So of course I was like, no, a lawyer is what I'm meant to be. So I took some time, I read some books, I interviewed tons of agents who were just in that space, just asking like, what do you do and how do you do it? And the question came back to me as to why do I do what I do? Now I know Ozzy said people don't go to LA, Nigerians don't go to LA, but I was born and raised in Los Angeles, so I was already there struggling. But a lot of my friends and neighbors and family members are in entertainment. They're the top comedians in the world. You have the Kevin Harts, who we're family friends with. We have, we have the different football players and actors who are my close people. So it's just like I could represent my friends and family and making sure that they're taken care of, because at the end of the day, the people that look like us aren't always taken care of. And that was my big thing. I will understand these deals. I will know how the money is made. I will know the different terminology, the different clauses, the things that we can add, the things that we make sure that we don't have, so that they can get the best out of their deals. So my cousin said to me, he's like, I mean, that's what an agent does. They pretty much take care of somebody, and they're following them down this road, but they start at the intersection of their creation of who they are. They find the project, they find the opportunity for them, creating that world that I, at the end of the road as the lawyer, just closed the deal on. How about me making an impact in somebody's life at the beginning stages, finding something for them, or helping them progress and opening a door and opening an opportunity for them? So after 2.5 years of interviews and reading books, because of course I wasn't just about to just drop my job, I started at CAA. I made a call to an agent that I interviewed, and I said, hey, remember a 1.5 years ago you said if this is what I think I want to do when I come back from China, to call you? He's like, yeah. I said, well, I think this is what I want to do. So I called him. The next day, I got an offer from CAA. They said, start in a month. I, too, watched The Entourage for that month, and I started. But I told myself, and the promise that I made to myself was, I'm not going in there just to be regular. I'm not going in there just to do a job. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it well. I'm a black, female, Nigerian in America. There's so many things that are against me, but are positives in my eyes, right? So I said, if I'm gonna do this thing, I'm gonna do it at the best. So I've always said I wanted to work across all of our departments: music, television, film, sports, and speakers. Today I work in music, television, sports, and speakers. There's not many people at our company that do that, and I've made sure that that was my thing. And Ozzy can speak to this as well, as finding placement, right? So when you come into a space and you say you want to do everything, as a black woman in that room, they're looking at me like, okay, find a lane and pick it, right? But I knew that I was destined for more. God didn't put me on this earth to just be regular. He gave me access, and my access to spread to the people around me. Like I said, my community was full of actors and actresses and comedians. I need to have this access for the people in my spaces. So you had to start small. So of course I tell them pieces. We're Nigerian, so they say don't tell everybody your plan. You don't express everything. You tell people piece by piece. When it happens, and you tell them, if you're coming to Nigeria, you tell them the day you arrive. You know what I'm saying? So going into that, that's how I approached my company, and I said I want to work in film, knowing that I wanted to do everything else, but I want to work in film. So they put me in film. Then the TV agent came, and I said, oh, I want to work in TV. Let me go work for her. So they put me in TV. And as I worked for her, she was a black woman, so that was someone I could able to confide in and have conversations with. And I let her know of this big dream that I had. And she's like, okay, well, pick some clients. Take on my clients. So then I started tapping into her clients and getting access to more people. And then an agent that came to our company who was new, she worked in music. And she was about to sign a Nigerian rapper named Chika. And I said, I've been tracking Chika for months. Let me tell you what I know. She's like, Jennifer, come with me to the meeting. I helped sign Chika in music while I was working in TV after already working in film. So it's one of those things of, this is how I got to where I came. I knew what I wanted to do and I stuck with it. But the understanding is it doesn't happen all at once. And how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Yeah. So, that was profound. Yeah.
I don't know, I was just about to drop the mic. No, that's yeah. No, that's great. I think there's as you guys can see, we can talk forever because that's what we do, right? And we'll talk a lot more, but we want to talk to you. Before I get into that, I'm going to introduce again Sam. Most of you who live in Nigeria know Sam as Sam Trace. That's not his surname. Trace is his surname. But, Sam and I have very similar careers. I started out in advertising many, many years ago at the Sunday Times, and then now doing what I currently do. But, Sam, why don't you tell everybody your trajectory and where you're going with Trace?
Sure.
Studios.
Hi, guys. Hey, everybody. Since we know, I won't go too long, but I will say that contrary to what you said, Ozzy, me too, I went to LA in Nigeria. so I traipsed out to LA actually for college. As you know, I'm half American. Went out there for college, and at USC, one of the biggest film schools in the world, right, where George Lucas and Steven Spielberg and all went. And soon found myself as a music lover working at Universal. And that actually, with a similar thing, while at Universal, I really wanted to work with Africans and Nigerians specifically. So in 2000, I was able to come to Nigeria and sign a group called Kush, who hopefully many of you remember. You don't know. And and fast forward to my my eventual return to Lagos, and I worked at Viacom first, and then took on building up Trace here. So, but for me, although I'm more on the music side of things, I think something we were talking about earlier, not to to divert us too quickly, is that what Jennifer's last phrase, right? How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? And one of the things we talked about when we were upstairs is how we hear from a lot of talent, whether it's directors, script writers, actors, musicians, etc., coming to be like, oh yeah, I'm ready to be the next who and who.
I'm ready to blow.
I'm ready to blow. No. Like, well, shit. First thing, excuse me. The first thing we might do is start calling around, see who is this guy if I haven't heard of you, etc. So we talked about taking those steps, as a creative, as in all of those aspects. So for me, that's brought me a long way to being in Nigeria, being helping to manage Trace across the continent and globally. And we feel we're in a great position because we are in many ways the MTV of Africa. We're very, very different than that. We're not a huge American company, and but we're filled with a lot of Africans who want to see this industry do what it can do. See this industry do what Chioma and Sid and so many of us in the room, Fela, and you guys on the seats want to see happen here. So it's wonderful to be here and speak about it with you all.
Thank you, Sam. So one of the things about being in the world of representation is I come from a sales background. I started out in sales at the Sunday Times, and I used to be able to sell sand to, as the saying goes, but I've evolved now. I'm a lot calmer. I'm not as bullish. But one of the key skills for the work we do is being able to nurture relationships, because everything we do in representation is about relationships. Everything, and it cuts across. I've worked in music, film, TV, sports, producing. I've worked in tech. And what I've learned is that it always brings me back to nurturing relationships and building that relationships. Jennifer, I want to, talk to you a little bit about, I also went to law school. I never practiced as a lawyer, even though that, that's another story. But what I learned at law school, right, in the UK was the art of negotiation, my interviewing skills, and just being able to command a room. And as an agent, you really need to do that. So when I left law school, I was where I needed to be. As an agent, talk to them about the core skills that you think your law degree helped you with as an agent.
Yeah, to be completely honest, what my law degree helped me to do while being an agent is being able to be in a room and feeling belonged. It's very difficult to be in a room full of people who don't look like you, who don't understand you, who think that you're there because you have to meet a quota. But to have a law degree and to be educated, it just set a different tone and perspective. People will judge you before you open your mouth, and that was something that I experienced. And having my law degree really gave me the confidence to step into a room. To say, no matter what happens in this place, I have a job, boo. I won't die. So that's something that has really helped me. And being able to get what I want. And that's not just being a lawyer, that's being the youngest of three and the only girl, So those kind of things of having these deliberate conversations to figure out how I can get the best optimal outcome for what I'm trying to accomplish. And having a law degree and studying law and negotiating is very important, especially in the agency space, because you're dealing with a lot of different personalities and a lot of different people. You talked about nurturing relationships. Try nurturing relationships of 50 different types of person when it's one single person. One person with 50 different personalities. It's very difficult. But because of my law degree, I've learned how to talk to different people depending on what's going on. They always teach us, anytime a client comes into your room, you talk to them not like a child, but you talk to them as if they don't know anything that you're talking about. You have to adapt, and you have to mimic the way that they talk so that when you communicate to them, they feel at home. Right? So I can't go and start spitting legalese and saying, you know, the merger acquisitions, blah, blah, blah. Like, they're not going to get that. But being able to talk to them on a level where I can say, what do you want? Okay, so in order for us to get this, we have to figure out X, Y, and Z. X is this, Y is this, and Z is that. Out of those three options, what's the best for you? So that's kind of the stuff that I've learned.
No, for sure. And Ozzy, you mentioned earlier, you talked about starting out in the mailroom. I don't think most people here, you know, managers here don't start in the mailroom. They don't even know what that is, right? And he mentioned that it took 5 years. You know, tell them about your trajectory from the mailroom to where you are now, how many years, and what you had to do in terms of your personal brand. And to make that happen.
It's a good question. So the mailroom is literally a mailroom, and it is at the bottom. It's on the first floor of our building. Our building specifically has 8 floors. So all of the we have about 300 agents that maybe work in our Los Angeles building, right? And so they all have mail that comes to them, whether it's from their clients or from buyers, from producers, and so all that mail goes into the mailroom. And so they would either have to hire external people that aren't involved in the business to look through their mail and then go deliver it to them, or they could hire people that have an ambition to work in the industry to go through their mail and then deliver it to them. What that allows is that person who has an ambition to work in the industry, it allows them to get in front of that agent and be himself, right? And so if that agent sees something, sees a certain talent, then they can pluck him and put him on their desk or allow him for an opportunity to be more informed as to what the agency is. So that's really what the mailroom system is. So in terms of the mail could go to any division, right? And so we mentioned that there was music, sports, film and TV, there's consulting. There are so many different verticals within the overall agency system. But then there's also various departments within each division. So like in sports, you might have the actual talent representation, but then you're also going to have brands and sponsorships and marketing. So within film and TV, you have, or let's just say TV, you have scripted, then you have unscripted, and then you have animation, and so then within film, you also have the various divisions. So each of those divisions have their own departments. So as you are in the mailroom and you are delivering mail, you could go to the sports department and then just be like, oh goodness, who is this person and where do I go? A lot of times as an assistant, I would be sitting outside or sitting at my desk. Agents usually sit in their office and the assistant sits on the outside. And you'll see somebody from the mailroom running around trying to deliver something on time and just being like, Ozzy, who is this person? Like, do you know where this office is at? That is an opportunity for that person in the mailroom to interact with me as an assistant and hopefully build a bond. But then when he actually meets that agent, he has 1 second to say something. Maybe he'll just drop the mail and not say anything, or maybe he'll say good morning, or maybe he'll have researched that agent, and he knows that agent loves Liverpool, right? And so then he'll say, Mo Salah scored a goal, drop the mail. And that agent will look at that person and be like, who is that? And then he'll call his assistant and be like, yo, find out who that person from the mailroom was because he was interesting. So in the mailroom, depending on how creative you are, you have an opportunity to go and use just delivering mail to create relationships, and to ultimately build a brand, because people will see you throughout the building. What I didn't have the opportunity of doing was going to law school but as Jennifer was speaking, I was thinking to myself, going to Nigeria was actually my law school. I was raised in the U.S. and where things are catered to you. Things are really given to you. You want hot food, put it in the microwave. Go grab some ice, and then you got a cold drink, whatever. And then I had to go live in the village. I wasn't even in Lagos. And so what the village taught me was, bro, if you want something, you're gonna have to be proactive. You're gonna have to think ahead, and then you're also gonna have to work for it. And if you're shy, don't worry about it. Like, it's not gonna happen. And so when I'm in the mailroom, I'm thinking, okay, pretend you're in Nigeria. Think ahead. Yesterday you were going to the sports division. Who are all the sports agents? The next time you enter that floor, you're going to know everybody's name, and you're going to smile. You're going to say good morning to everyone, And so just being able to be proactive, people then begin to look at you. Oh, that's that guy who's always smiling. That's the guy. And so then you get an opportunity to, like Jennifer said, she wanted to be in film or TV. If you've done well during your mailroom stint, and you want to be in the film department, when the HR comes to you and you say, I want to be in HR, they'll go to that division, and then people will say, "Now we know this kid, we like him, bring him in."
Oh, I mean, yeah, I think, I felt that was important for people to kind of understand, and you just mentioned something. When I first started out in sales, I had to learn that I needed to build a relationship with the gatekeepers.
Yeah.
Who are the gatekeepers? Who knows who the gatekeepers are in corporate world?
Anyone who's there.
Executive assistants. Man, I was on that phone. If I know, the boss gets in at 8:10, I'm calling you at 7:45. I say, how you doing today, Jennifer? How's everything? How's your weekend? What you need? I've just sent you some coffee. How's everything? You have to really do, because that's how you open the door. My biggest deals ever came through those guys, because they'll put you on, and that's exactly what it takes. Sam, I'm going to ask you. You've been in the music world. We've been in the music world, and being in the music world in Nigeria has been one of the toughest things I've ever do. Doing deals for Wizkid and those kind of guys has been pretty tough. Sam, talk to them about talent in music and how that relates to the film world as well, and how what your experience.
No, I think that's a good segue. I mean, nothing is more influential on our lives and on our business these days than the digital world, right? And the fact that and actually, Ozzy, you were saying this specifically, the fact that an artist or an actor or whatever creative person or non-creative person, a lawyer, a budding lawyer, whatever, can be seen anywhere in the world, and it's up to them to do that, to promote themselves and keep doing their craft until they're seen and noticed, is such a key element these days. And that means that things are turned upside down. Sure, there's still gatekeepers at corporations, but there's no gatekeepers to the public now. And it doesn't mean that it's easy. Of course, it's incredibly hard, but it's incredibly hard also to get recognized by agents, or get recognized by media brands, or so on, and for that matter, get recognized by the public, right? So the one constant across all of that is the hard work, right? Is the hard work and dedication, because as I said, in my little opening statement, that so many, too many times, in fact, all the time, and many of you in the audience, or at least the friends I see close by, hear the same thing, where people are coming to you and say, I want to blow, I'm ready to blow. And it's like, what have you done? What groundwork have you done? For me, with music artists specifically, the first thing I ask them, and I said this earlier, is I ask them, have you gone to your local radio station? Because if you're coming to Trace, where we are, kind of one of the Pan-African, you're expecting I'm going to put your video across all of Africa tomorrow, right? What about, I'm hesitating to say a name, XXX FM station, well, hey, in Port Harcourt, your radio station down the road, those guys know you? Are you the shit there? Have you blown, have you grown your audience? And if you tell me, nobody's giving me a chance, bro, nobody gave anybody a chance. But once your work starts showing itself, that's when people will open up chances for you, right? So have you gone to a radio station every week? If you had to take Puff Puff, next week you took Botley, and every time you drop your cassette with it, and you say, play this thing, and if the guy's like, I ain't playing it on the station, no problem, can you just 1 minute, my brother, listen to this thing. Maybe he doesn't like that one, and you keep coming back and back and back and back, and eventually that's the way the work sees itself. And to me, I did work in the States, actually, in A&R, as I said, at Universal, and we would do a small version of that. You'd go to the small clubs and see a band. And once you find a band, forget even LA, find a band in Idaho who every time they come out, there's 500 people dying to be at that show. That's who can blow, not the guy who's next to them down the road who just believes he's the best.
No, that's a very good point. So, as we promised, we want to talk to you guys. So I'm going to open this up to the floor. Your questions enable us to, talk to you more deeply. Dr. Sid.
I can hear you. I can hear you. Oh, sorry.
Hi. Okay. Just want to say you guys are all amazing. I know each and every one of you, Jennifer, we just met. I I'm one of the guys who knows your story and understands what it is to be an artist in the industry and growing up. But I've also been an artist who was sort of gone through the cycle and moved into something else. I've just recently started a record label. And there's one thing that I want to ask you guys is, how do you manage talent expectations? Because being an artist myself, I grew up in a different era where you're with the label, we have a plan, you don't question, you move. Now, mental health, my feelings, this generation, no, seriously. This generation mode was like mental health, my feelings, my brand, things like that. But also being an agent who is seeing a lot of stuff, things don't really change. How do you manage talent expectations when one guy is telling you, like you said, I want to blow, but you know that he has to go through certain stages? How do you manage that?
I think the best way, at least for myself and how I've managed that, is being brutally honest with people. I don't have time to waste, and neither do you. So let me tell you exactly what we need to do, not what you need to do, but what we need to do, because we're a team, right, in order to get to where you want to go. I literally just had a signing meeting a couple days ago, and I had the conversation of, I need to know what you want to do and how you expect to do that. And then I had to tell her, okay, but these are the expectations that I have from you in order for me to get you there. The luxury that we have and the blessing of working at an agency such as CAA is that we have access to everything. There isn't a project by any director, any filmmaker that comes out that we don't know about. And we have the ear to the casting directors on what's put in front of them, So being able to talk to my clients in a way of, hey, they're saying, I want to blow up, I want to get big. I say, you and everybody else. You and everybody else. So one of my clients specifically said, I want to be in the next Marvel movie. That's my dream. I have a client that's already in a Marvel movie. She's like, I want to be like your other client that's in the Marvel movie genre. I said, okay, well, you're too small. Get big, get buff. Not that being too small is making you not be able to be a hero, because there's Ant-Man, right? There's a little, you know what I'm saying? However, I know that he has a model physique. Not to say that models can't be superheroes, but if we're trying to get into a space and be attractive to the people who are doing the film, we gotta do a little bit more. Try to look the part. So I have those conversations and say, okay, please believe my client is jacked. And he's now working in the gym with a Marvel character. So it's one of those things where you just have to be brutally honest in having those conversations of the reality of it. If you sugarcoat it, we're going to set ourselves up to fail. If we make it seem like, okay, yeah, okay, good. Okay, this is what you want. You want to be this, you want to do this. Great, great, great. Send me this, we'll make it happen. No, if we know that there's stuff that's lacking. We said that last night. We were talking to some kids, these kids that we represent. We said, keep doing what you're doing and continue to do it better. Because if you lose sight of where you are right now, you will never go on. I love what you're doing right now, but I need more than this. I said it because I do, and we do. So, honesty.
No, I think that's.
Can I add one thing?
Yeah, for sure.
So, along with being brutally honest, I think that the curation of our talent list or of our client list is really where it starts. There was something that Sam was saying about being the biggest in your own location. I think that the most ideal way to be represented or to be signed, and this is for me as well, in anything, is you want to be approached. Like you dress up real nice. Let's say you're going out, you dress up real nice. You're going to the prom or you're going to this big gala. You got your makeup on, or guys, I don't dress up really nice, man, so I don't know what we wear, but we got good stuff on. And so then you go to the place, and you want people to look at you and be like, oh, and tap you and be like, hey, who are you? You look amazing. Like, I wanna be in business. I want a relationship with you. What you don't want to do is dress up all that nice and then have to go and chase somebody. And then go and tap on his shoulder and be like, hey, look at me. Did you see this? Did you see this? Nah, that's not how it's done. And so in terms of the talent that we represent, you want to have built a body of work that attracts the person that you want to be with. You know, and it is how we have signed most of the talent that we work with already. And so then in terms of managing their expectations, because we want to be with them, we can be explicitly honest. You know, it is me approaching you. And so it's like, this is what I have available. This is what I can do. You know, and ultimately, in being explicitly honest, we let them know this is what the industry is looking for right now. This is where the industry is at right now. This is what your skills and ability extends. This is what the opportunities look like. And so this is what is available. Of course, we can surpass, but for us to ambition to that immediately might be folly. You know, and so to me, it's really being explicitly honest. But it's also about having a very well curated client list.
That's good.
Sorry, just to round up, because you used a different phrase earlier. If you're an artist or or an actor, you want the agent, that the ultimate way to get signed is for an agent to come to you. I've seen your work, I've seen this. If you're a musician, the ultimate way is for a label to come to you and say, bro, I need to sign you. And that's what we're talking about, is laying that ground.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that never happens here, I think people aren't really true to themselves. Let's be honest, right? Not everybody. I spoke in the acting masterclass yesterday. There were 29 students, and I said, if you're lucky, 3 of you might make it. Listen, man, we've got to be real. These kids are fragile, and if you lie to them, you're doing them a disservice, right? So you got to be true to them all the time, and we're going to try and be true to you. Nobody's getting signed here today. Next question, please. You never know, Ozzy?
You never know.
Sorry, can I just say, sorry, House. 1 second. 1 second. Oh, no, there's 2 mics here. I'll take that question first. Can you keep it to 1 question and you keep them short? I'll take Prudence's question first, then I'll take the question here.
Actually, I was listening to it might be a bit long, so I'm sorry about that.
Can you try, I've only got 9 minutes, so try and keep it very short.
So my question is about, how do you manage a profile that are very unique? In my case, I became an agent by accident. I represent 3 people. John Amos for Africa. I represent the first African team motorsport team leader in Europe, and I represent a Namibian filmmaker based in Florida. The Namibian filmmaker based in Namibia cannot find, or had hard time finding, movies or projects in America, because she wants to do African stories, and filmmaking and the people that she meets in the US do not allow her to do those type of film. The motorsport team leader that I represent is a young, unknown person who we've tried to get as much as companies to get him to support him, but because he's a nobody, so there's nobody actually that support him. John Amos is an okay case. So what I want to know, what I end up doing is actually creating opportunities for them through other. So what I want to know is, how do you find opportunities for profile that are very unique?
Can I answer this one? Okay. So this is what I'll just be straightforward. Here, let me use an example. There was a film finance panel here, I think 2 days ago, and there was a dude that stood up, and he was just like, I can't be talking about all this other business type. If you don't feel it within me first, then we can't go anywhere. So as an agent, when I'm speaking about my clients that are very nuanced, all of them are in Africa, all of them are in Africa or the Middle East, I bring my passion first. And so when I'm speaking to an executive that is on the U.S. side, when they hear me and when they hear me speak, they're like, okay, something. First of all, something's going on. I don't understand the name that he's spoken about. I don't know anywhere about the region, but this dude is excited for some reason, And then as they listen, hopefully what you have constructed is something that also pulls them in. I always use a story. Because a story is something that simplifies, the situation and allows somebody to be on the same page, And so in terms of representing my talent, I lead with passion, and then I try to make my story relatable, or a story about them. What have they been through? Who are they, and who are they as a person, not necessarily as a filmmaker. If you're talking about somebody that's based in Tanzania, did they have a struggle or an arc that they had to overcome? How did they fall in love with filmmaking? All of these things don't matter about where you are in the world, because it's the same thing, And so for me, it's all about passion and then how you can deliver a narrative that makes that person think, oh, so that person's not here in LA? Oh, no, they're not? Oh, they're living in Zimbabwe? Oh, okay, great. Let me meet them.
I think what's key, right, for me, I've always represented the individual first, right? I need to understand who you are, what you're about, and then we create the plan around it. I think that's really what you have to try and focus on, because if you don't understand the individual you're representing, you're never going to be able to do anything for them, and that's very key. Ijoma, going to take your question?
Hi, my name is Ijoma Anyebo. I'm an actor. And this question is specifically for Ozzy because you said you wanted to come back and do more. What exactly does that mean, and how do we come into play? What do we have to do, actors, directors, producers? How can we help you achieve what you want?
So let me be honest. When I first wanted to come back and do more, I didn't know what that meant. I really didn't know but I knew that there was a divide that wasn't being looked at. And so I've been at CA for 8 years. I was promoted 2.5 years ago, and so I've been specifically doing Africa for 2.5 years as an agent. But I started entering into this conversation, into this region, 3 years prior to being promoted because I was trying to show them that I could do this. So I've been doing it for about 5 years, right? How I've started has changed. First I went to the biggest names that I could find, thinking that, okay, I'm going to work with the biggest names, and then everything, and they're going to lead, they're going to connect me to people down, people beneath them, and then we're just going to build an industry because everybody loves each other, and then we're just going to start closing deals. So it didn't take me too long to figure out that wasn't going to be a strategy that that worked. What I had to do was begin to build honest and earnest relationships with people on the ground. There were people at CAA that tried to do Africa before me, and they came in and they built relationships with Econet and the biggest companies. And then, of course, whatever happens. But if you start with like Fella was saying, you understand one person, and you develop an authentic relationship with that one person, things grow at the grassroots level. From that one person, which ended up being, let me not say names because people will say whatever, but I grew an honest relationship with one person that was well connected. I got on this phone, I was crying with this person, laughing with this person, over WhatsApp. And then he began to tell me his honest truth and then as you learn honest truth, then you can figure out what your road actually is, or where that path actually is. So my goal, my ultimate goal is to merge Africa and our film industries here from the Egyptian to South Africa to Kenya and to Nollywood to seamlessly merge that with the wider international film industry. What I don't like are for producers to come here and do deals that don't mirror international deals. All that I'm hearing is, oh, I want a Nigerian writer, but in Nigeria, film and TV is done at this level, so I'm going to pay him this much money. But are you trying to release your film or your TV series in Nigeria, or are you trying to release it internationally alongside everything else that is global? So there has to be a certain rate that is applied, based off of where it is going to go, not where that person is from. And so just getting into this industry being in this space, my ambitions have begun to change. Ultimately, in terms of merging the industries, I want us to be treated the same. That is it. That is the goal. So okay, I feel like how can we help? What Chilma has been putting on is awesome. What we need is versus people coming to us is what Sam just said. You become the best and brightest in your own locale. Today, we have been signing people off of social media. Looking at watching content on social media. You don't have to come to Nigeria to actually see the talent. And so it is the people that are making themselves available. That we are watching. Jennifer mentioned these kids, and I'm going to say their name because they're awesome. They're called the Critics. They're based out of Kaduna. And we first started talking to them when the oldest one was 14 years old. They have now produced with Morgan Freeman, and they are partnering with other studios. We signed them 2 years ago. We closed the deal with Morgan Freeman. They have a sort of a hero's journey that everyone is about to see. It is the birth of an authentic superhero that is starting from Nigeria. And so there are opportunities to do that same thing as well. But we would never have found these kids if they hadn't been doing what they're doing. If you go online and just type in the Critics, they are releasing videos online every day. that is the difference. If you're a filmmaker, you are filmmaking. If you're an actor, you are acting. You're not approaching an agent saying, I'm an actor. So what we need from you is to continue to do it.
Right. Yeah, I've only got 5 more minutes, and that's some great points Ozzy really just made. I think the industry here, first of all, you all need to come together. There has to be that one voice that's speaking, because when the West are looking in and they're coming to do different deals, they get, backdoor deals. People are very focused on self-interest. We've got to now change that and be very focused on our interest as Nigerians, number one, as the Nigerian film industry. Then it's Africa, right? And what CAA are trying to do is to ensure, what Ozzy and Jennifer and their team are trying to do is to ensure that there's one story being told and there's one negotiation point being negotiated.
Yeah, that's very important, because just to Ozzy's point of they want to pay African prices, right? Not relatively as to what the dollar is to Naira, but relative to what they want to pay, and us trying to stay away from that. And because of having that one voice, and that one voice is not that actually one person, but that one narrative of this is what we are worth and this is what what needs to be paid. What we do as representatives is, that's the title. We represent the people who we work with, and we make sure that they get the most optimal amount of money and funds for their talent and their worth. Because the last thing that we need is, oh, let's go to Africa because it's cheaper. No, it's not cheaper. It's the same price. You're dealing with us in the States. You're going to pay we're going to make sure that it's the stature. But when you have people who go around the back door and have the conversation with talent directly, talent doesn't know. Yeah, That's why I became a lawyer, so that they don't have to have those conversations on their own, Yeah.
So I'm out of time, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to ask each of you to give your closing remarks, and then I'll close it. But guys, the guys will be around for a few minutes outside. This session should have been 3 hours. I'm done out of time. They say I can take 2 more questions. But please, 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 it's a question, not a story. A question. That young man up there.
Hi, my name is Israel Scott. I'm from New Orleans by way of New York, and I'm a producer and actor. And I wanted to know, once you get into these spaces, how is it that you advocate for actors of color to not be pigeonholed into the roles of domestic or slaves, especially like in the States and in Africa? And at what point do you know that you have the power to negotiate and tell your talent you're not accepting that role?
So it's knowing who your talent is and understanding what they want, because some talent are okay with that. So you have to be knowing who you're representing. Secondly to that, it's understanding. You said, when do we know that we have the ability? We have the ability. Like, we know that already. That's not a question. One of the things that I specialize in is having those conversations of, okay, so this role says her name is Sally, she's best friends to Gwen, and it's a white Caucasian female. Sally is a school teacher who works 9 to 5, and it's a simple job. Why can't Sally be a male who's black, who happens to be from Ghana? Because the storyline has nothing to do with how she's white and how she was raised in you have those questions and tweak those minds. And because, again, we work at this agency, we have the ability to have those conversations because we're talking directly with the directors and the writers and the producers. There's been times where there's been scripts that have been brought, especially across my desk, where I'm like, do they realize that that's a little racist? Let's have a conversation. And it's obviously doing it in the most appropriate way, right? You don't just say, hey, this is racist. You have the first conversation with the agent who represents the talent and saying, hey, I think that this might, okay, well, let's have the conversation. It's not easy, right? But that's how it goes.
One more question.
Aussie, too much. That's another Aussie. Aussie.
Let me give that young man the mic in the middle. Ozzy, you know all this stuff.
Thank you so much. My name is Valentine. I'm an actor and a psychologist. Jennifer, how have you been able to stand out as a woman in a society that doesn't really see you or want to hear your voice? How are you able to beat the odds and your standpoint? Yeah, I've been listening to you, but I mean,
Wait, hold on, guys. Let's be respectful. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I've heard everything you said, yes.
Mhm.
Amazing. But how have you been able to beat the odds?
Well, one, my smile. When I come into a room, people always tell me, wow, you have an amazing smile. Your teeth are so white. And I look in the mirror, I'm like, they look okay. But that's that. And then people having that personable attitude where people want to talk to you. People always want to talk to me. Whether I want to talk to them or not, people always want to talk to me. And that's fine. But once they talk to me, I always make sure they know that I'm a lawyer, they know that I'm educated, and they know that I'm worth being in the room. Not because I have a good smile, but because I deserve to be here in the education that I have.
I think that the answer is confidence. At the end of the day,
Yeah,
either you know that you have it or you don't believe in yourself.
Yeah.
And so Jennifer is extremely confident. You know,
I'm shy.
she inspires me to be more confident.
I love that. Great. Okay, I'm gonna let each one of these guys give a closing. Sam, I'll let you start.
Yeah.
You go 30 seconds.
Well, there you go. You know, I think what Ozzy's just said is just, and Jennifer as well said, so critical about you know, that very, very basic thing. Because at the end of the day, I mean, we're all creatives. We all want to do beautiful things and tell stories, but we got to feed our families and make a living. And so that very critical thing of trying to let clients and producers and whatever the ecosystem know that Africa isn't just a cheap alternative. And that's a wonderful thing, and you know, we'll support you in everything we can on that side. On the other side of it, of course, you know, young actors and directors struggle, right? And struggle more in developing economies than many places. But even then, and to your point, you know, or your question is, sometimes you just got to say no, right? If it doesn't fit you, if it doesn't fit your trajectory, where you want to be, how much you're getting paid, etc. I know sometimes it's easier to take that you know, for up and coming musicians or actors, it's easier to take that 10, 20K of modeling job and be like, I ain't taking this shit, and waiting until you get that 100K job that pays, you know, a bit better. So sometimes it's really, again, knowing yourself and knowing what you know, where you want to get to and defining that. And I think that the hard work combined with consistency, combined with effort, making yourself available, and that are some of the pieces that it takes to get there.
Thank you, Sam. Ozzy?
I was really trying to think of what I wanted to finish with. And what I'll say is, Jennifer being with me, man, has really changed everything. It has really changed everything because it was really difficult in the beginning. And when you have a teammate, or when you have somebody else that is also preaching the same, you know, message, and that you know has your back, you can be more forceful. You can go and you can be more confident. And what I've learned, and what I've also experienced, and so I mean, Chilma is a testament to it. I wanted to talk about a little bit about the first deal, well, not the first, but one of the first deals that we've closed that has been outside of anything local. And when I understood how that, I told people I watched the film, I thought that it was amazing. We then, you know, closed a deal with a major U.S. studio and then a major U.S. platform, garnering the writer a 6-figure deal just to write the pilot. And then I looked at the work that was done prior, the work that was done in love to that filmmaker prior, something that didn't have to be done, right? And so what I realized was it is more so the community. It was my trip to Nigeria and that allowed for all of this to happen. It was the relationship that I made then on the ground. So as we talk about Nollywood being, you know, not necessarily getting along and bickering, when I signed one person, that person has allowed me to go out and do everything that we're doing now. There was a question that was asked, what can we be doing here? You can be supporting each other in the most honest and earnest way. And I think that as we do that, we get opportunities for all of us to be successful. If Jennifer is not here, I am half of I'm half of who I am. With Jennifer here, my cup is overflowing. So let us partner up together and approach us in that same spirit.
Thank you, Ozzy. Jennifer?
Thanks, Ozzy. Let me tell you guys something. So in 2018, me and Ozzy, we worked really hard because we've been saying today, go put out your mixtape, go to the studios every day, continue to act if you're an actor, continue to direct if you're a director. You have to put in the work. And we were putting in the work on Saturdays and Sundays. I would literally, after church, amen, get in the car, go to the office, and continue to work. We wrote on the board, CAA Africa. No Africa in sight. I'd come home, you know, Christmas and Easter every year, but that wasn't the concept. But we knew there was something that needed to be done, and working with Ozzy seriously, there's no other agency in the world that does what we do. With the focus. It's not that, oh, I represent this person because they're African. It's like, no, you represent that person because they just so happen to be African. No, we do it intentionally. We want to be here. We're here. Our company's never sent agents to a conference in Nigeria, ever. For what? We are very intentional. So it's been a pleasure working with Ozzy. He says he gives me all the credit, but I really give him all the credit. Having people in your spaces and respecting each other and uplifting each other is very important. Having somebody who will bring your name up in a room when you're not there, Ozzy has done that. He sits with the president of our company. When you hear, you know, Gwyneth Paltrow and Will Smith doing their thank you speeches, they say, thanks, Richard Lovett. He has Richard Lovett's ear, and every time he talks to Richard, he says, so Jennifer Okafor, XYZ, you have to have people who are in your corner, and that's what's really important. And that's something that we have also shared with the clients that we represent, that we are in your corner, because we understand, like, we're bridging this gap, but it's not an easy task for us. There is plenty of talent here in Nigeria. We know that. That's why we're doing what we are doing. Not because we discovered one day that there's talent in Africa. No, it's because we knew that there was talent in Africa. And we're like, how do we do this? How do we bridge this gap so that they can be with the Genevieves and the Bankies and the CJs? And how do we do this thing, you know? And here we are. So I'm ending this with, keep everybody in your corner. Niger, you're in our corner. Africa, you're in our corner. Thank you all so much.
Not much else to say. First of all, I want to thank Afrif for giving us this opportunity, Chioma, Uday, and the team. Like I said, these guys will be available outside for conversation. Don't badger them too much. Just be soft. Buy them a drink, and they may just pull that pen out. You know, I want to thank you guys for showing up. You can reach, I think they're all on Instagram, social media. But have a conversation first. It's been great. There's more conversation to be had. But most of all, if it gets too expensive, don't be afraid to walk away. Good day.
Fella, can we get a photo? Who's going to take it?
What is it? I'll show you now. The next session here is happening right now, Documentary Through Generation Africa. Discovering Documentary Through Generation Africa is happening here right now. So please just wait behind if you're waiting for that session. We encourage you to.
It's a long time.
I have a photo, but I need this much money.
No pressure.